Prince Harry is keen to be reconciled with his father and has been telling people that he wants a return, that he's happy to step in some sort of temporary royal role while his father's away unwell. Obviously, the king has cancer. He's away from public duties. But also, Princess of Wales is off. She's recovering from abdominal surgery. She's not going to be around until Easter. Prince William has been taking care of her to some extent. We'll see him on Sunday night at the BAFTA Awards. But there's a real thinning at the top of the senior royals. Now, what I've been told is that Prince Harry is very keen. He's been having quite a lot of warm conversations with his father, was very pleased to come over and have that time with him at Clarence House last week after the cancer diagnosis was made public. Yeah. And that this could be the start of a reconciliation. It's all the kind of the words that I'm getting around people who know Harry, who know members of the royal family, are saying that this is certainly what he wants. He's always wanted to have a foot back in the fold. He never really wanted to be all the way out.
Of course, so he was told, wasn't he, at the time, that you can't be half in, half out by the late Queen 4 years ago. But now it looks like he's trying to edge back towards that position, if only on a temporary basis until King Charles is back on his feet.
That's exactly it. And I think he's probably looking at the situation thinking, well, OK, that was 4 years ago. Things have changed since then. We don't have that many senior members of the royal family who are working. You know, he's got his Auntie Anne, Princess Royal, who's
putting in a shift.
She is putting in a shift and a half, isn't she? Yeah. She's fantastic. And the Queen, you know, who's 76. We've seen her doing a great deal this past couple of weeks. She's been absolutely phenomenal. But they are of an age, they don't have that kind of middle ranking. You know, he's got experience at public duties. Yeah. He's obviously keen to do it. It's been made clear to me that obviously he wouldn't want any kind of public money. It wouldn't be that he'd be back in the fold, you know, in any kind of permanent way. But just this idea that he's there if they need him. Now, whether they would want that is another matter.
It's a different matter, and we'll get on to that. I think this whole idea and concept, which is true, that the monarchy has almost automatically, by accident, become more slimmed down, has actually happened rather quickly because of what's happened with the king in the last couple of months, because of what's happened with the Princess of Wales. I mean, we've seen unusual things, haven't we, in the last couple of months? I mean, I noticed that the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester were invited to Sandringham around Christmas time, a place they hadn't been for decades, apparently. And we are now in a position at the top of the British royal family where actually there aren't that many working royals.
We've had Duchess of Gloucester out with the Queen on a couple of engagements this week as well. That's right. And we've seen Sarah Ferguson back in the fold. She's also sadly been diagnosed with cancer, skin cancer. But she was back at Christmas at Sandringham. Yeah. So there is movement. And I think that while there was this Sandringham summit, which was where Megxit, as it was dubbed, happened
4 years ago,
4 years ago, which, it doesn't seem that long ago to me, but it was. And I think things have changed so much since then that there is a feeling that perhaps there could be room for Harry and Meghan to do something. Yeah. And also the Commonwealth, which, it's a shame that they left their royal duties, to be honest, because they would have been marvellous sort of ambassadors for the Commonwealth. And I think that was the late Queen's plan. And all those trips that would have happened this year, very important kind of state visits or high-profile royal visits for the case of the Prince and Princess of Wales, look now in doubt because the King was due to go to Canada, Australia and CHOGM, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Samoa later this year. Well, it's very unlikely from this standpoint to think that he will be in a position where he can do that, even if he makes a full recovery as soon as we all hope he will. It's thin at the top. Yeah,
I mean, so there's space, that there are events that need to be attended, but Buckingham Palace hasn't commented about, what on this story, but we don't know how receptive, do we, the rest of the royal family would be to the idea of Harry coming back into the fold, even on a short-term basis. But we understand from your story that the king might be receptive to it. Well,
the king has had lots of kind of warm conversations with Harry. Now it's my understanding, I'm not sure between the two of them, their private conversations, exactly what's been discussed in those meetings, whether Harry's made that kind of formal bid or not, or whether he's just been talking about it around to try to get a kind of reaction from what that reaction would be. But I think it's safe to say that there's some people in the family who would not want to see him back in any way, even for a cup of tea, let alone for anything kind of official or royal in terms of duties. And one of those people is, of course, his brother, Prince William. So last week, although it feels like a year ago now, when Harry was over visiting his father, William's aides made it perfectly clear that William had no time in the diary to see his brother. And it wasn't, maybe we'll try and make something work. It was
we're not going to try.
No, I think just so much water's gone under the bridge with those brothers, and we all would like to think there's a point in the future where they'll get back together and have some sort of rapprochement, but it's so hard to see how that can happen now. I mean, Harry's book, he took aim at his brother pushing him into a dog bowl in his autobiography, Spare. He's criticised his sister-in-law, Kate, and I think that's just such a touch point for William. There's one thing, he's got broad shoulders.
The
one
Queen,
thing
he criticised Queen Camilla.
He's criticised his stepmother, yeah. So then there's lots of people who won't be welcoming him back with open arms. And, part of this, you think, sort of what planet is Harry on, really, to think that might be an option. But on the other hand, whatever's gone on, if Harry is truly going to sort of draw a line in the sand and say, let bygones be bygones and make amends by saying, I will come and, do these acts of service, I'll help. That's something quite different. And, there's definitely something about having a serious illness like cancer that focuses everybody's minds in any family.
Yeah. But it would be a swift turnaround, wouldn't it? Because, it's not just Spare that was amazingly a year ago. We had Omid Scooby's book as well, which was much more recent, which had some of those latest punches. And that's just the reaction of the royal family and how they might feel. But there's also, of course, the question of how the public might react and feel if he comes back on the royal scene as a working royal, even for a short time, how he might be received when he's out there speaking to everyday people.
Do you know what, though? I think the thing I'll say about Harry is that
he can do it.
He is really well liked by the public. So in Whistler, it was the Invictus Games and it's his show there, but he got out of the building and he was going to the cars and they were singing God Save the King. And then, the British national anthem, and everybody was sort of waving and cheering. And he does have a kind of a sense of that kind of magic that his mother had. So you see, he's so natural with people out and about on public duties. And I think that it is a big loss to the royal family that they lost that. Having said that, they can't. How can you operate when somebody's constantly criticising everything about the institution? It's just not a way to kind of carry on. They were obviously unhappy. And the Sussexes, I was told, they had a real plan in place, and it was quite, well thought out that they might move to South Africa and have some sort of Commonwealth roles. They would get that freedom that they talked about. But they'd also be kind of in the mix still, could have a bit of a life there and then come back. But that plan all kind of disintegrated because it wasn't what the Sussexes wanted. And that's when they then moved to Canada and then ultimately to start a new life in Montecito and launched their kind of production company, Archwell. They've done then, and the Netflix as well. We haven't talked about that because that was the big kind of...
But a lot of that's failed, hasn't it? I mean, a lot of it's failed. I mean, even the Archwell Productions, that's now being rebranded to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, I think. They've changed the name of that. So a lot of the commercial ventures haven't worked out.
Well, yeah, I mean, you say that, but then I suppose from a kind of a big conglomerate point of view, they haven't worked out. But then you look at the things that have been really successful, like the Netflix documentary. It's when they're talking about the royal family,
it works,
and kind of dishing the dirt. That's what people really obviously are tuning in for, are buying the books for.
But have they got to the end of the line, Kate? Basically,
Well-
they've dished all the dirt. There is no more dirt to dish. So this is it. Now the comeback happens. We're on the boomerang. We're on the return leg.
Well, that's it. And then there'll be people in the family thinking, hang on, is this a kind of material gathering exercise? Because this is what they want to, why would they let them back in to then to do it all over again? But I think what I think is interesting about this story is not, will it happen? It'll never happen. They'll never let him back in. Surely not. It's the fact that he's such a kind of tortured character, isn't he? That he still wants that recognition. He still wants to be back in, despite not realising quite the damage that perhaps he's done to the institution and the stress that he's put on those members of the royal family. But it's just, it's sort of a dysfunctional family. But that's why I think that it's fascinating.